This may be a controversial topic. It shouldn't be, but I know many people look forward to various animal encounters when they book shore excursions. From dolphins to sloths to riding horses on the beach, there are many popular options, and some of them may not be that ethical. Ahoy, travelers! It's Amy with Cruising from the Ozarks here with another Tuesday tip to help you make your vacation a success. Let's start off with setting some terminology. When I say animals, I'm using that as a grab all inclusive term to mean mammals, birds, marine life. Okay. So maybe you're asking, how can an animal encounter be unethical? It's a reasonable question if you've not thought about it. And maybe you assume, oh, well, if these are going to be available, they must be ethical. And that's not always going to be the case. First off, I'm going to go ahead and say it. No, I am not a PETA member. Nothing close to that. I grew up on the family farm where we raised cattle and hogs, and to this day, we still operate a cattle farm. But good farmers treat their animals well, and it doesn't do a farmer any good not to do so. Even saying that, though, there is a difference between livestock and wild animals. And personally, I just believe that wild animals should remain wild if at all possible. Almost all encounters are going to include wild animals. No one's booking an excursion to see domesticated animals unless it's possibly horseback riding. Horses usually are considered domesticated creatures. So we're not talking about, oh, let's go see some dogs or let's go see some cats. We're talking about wild animals. That's what we're going to see. You're like, oh, we're going to this part of the country. They have this animal there. I've never encountered it before. I would like to book something that allows me to see them, touch them, pet them, whatever the case may be. I'm not a fan of zoos. I just don't like the idea of an animal being captured and contained so that people can look at them. If we're talking about something that is being used as a sanctuary for animals that, for some reason were taken out of the wild or need to be in a protected area because they cannot survive on their own in the wild, that's a different situation. So for me, when we're talking about an ethical animal encounter, we're talking about something that's probably going to operate more like a sanctuary. One question you should be asking yourself is, how many encounters an animal is expected to participate in a day or a week? Is this something where they're doing multiple encounters a day? Or is it something where maybe they only do a couple a week? A good sanctuary is not going to be putting animals out there to be in human contact over and over again every single day. That's not what they would do in the wild. It's not a natural experience for them. And for me personally, I would never want to actually give money towards an organization that does that. An animal encounter that I see a lot of is actually horseback riding on a beach. And while horses aren't usually wild animals anymore, I mean, we do have wild horses, but most horses have been raised in captivity. They're more considered livestock. I still think it's very important that we look at how often these horses are doing this. Are they spending all day long when a ship's in port tracking people around on the beach? Or do they trade out their horses and they only maybe do one or two a day? So, something to look into when you're doing and booking an animal encounter. If you've made it this far, you should definitely consider subscribing to our channel. It's not going to cost you a thing, but it does help other cruisers know that our channel has content that they might think is worth viewing. YouTube's going to then push our content out to other people who like to watch cruising videos. So what should you look for when trying to find an ethical animal encounter? And I do really encourage you to look for ethical encounters. It's very easy just to say, hey, I want to do this, book it, and not even pay any attention. If the cruise ship has it as a possible shore excursion, then surely they've looked into it, but have they? Whether you're booking through the cruise line or on your own, it really is something you should probably take into consideration. So, one of the number one things I look for is if these animals are in a sanctuary. Sanctuaries both rehabilitate animals so where they can go back into the wild, and they provide a safe environment for animals that don't have the ability to take care of themselves anymore. Maybe they've been injured, maybe they were raised in captivity. There's different reasons why animals can't be rehabilitated and placed back into their natural habitat. So, a good sanctuary will actually create a habitat very similar to what they would have in the wild. So you need to be looking, how are these animals housed? See if you can find that out. Look for the information if possible and see. You don't want to be, or at least I don't want to be giving money to a place that puts animals in small cages or a small tank or something like that. And the only time they get brought out is when people are touching them and picking them up and petting them. And that is just not a good life. Wild animals should not live like that. So, an animal encounter that I experienced is one that I had wanted to do my whole life, and that was a dolphin encounter. I've always wanted to do that. I've always been fascinated with dolphins. I have a dolphin tattoo from when I was in college, and seeing one up close, getting to finally touch a dolphin has been something I've just dreamt about, right? In doing so, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't contributing to an unethical treatment of a dolphin. Dolphins are extremely intelligent creatures, and to participate in something where these dolphins are kept in small tanks and brought out just so that people can pet them and get their pictures taken with them was not something that I wanted to be part of. And because of that, I actually did quite a bit of research until I found a place that was a sanctuary where these dolphins were not being held captive all the time and they weren't being put through multiple encounters a day. And when I got there, I found out the place was even better than I had originally researched and found out. In fact, the dolphins actually are free to leave and go out into the open ocean every night. The area is shut up during the day so that they don't have like sharks or anything else coming into the bay where they do the encounters, but at night they open up this fencing and the dolphins are free to go out into the open ocean. And I asked, they said they've never actually had any of them not come back because most of them were raised in this area and they know that's where their food is, but they are free to leave. They do say some of the males would leave and be gone for a few days, but they always did come back. I really like the idea that these dolphins were able to leave and make a choice every time whether they wanted to come back or not. Also, these dolphins only participated in a few encounters during the week. So while the sanctuary had like 3, 4 encounters a day, they had enough dolphins that they were switching them up and they weren't doing multiple encounters a day. Weren't even always working every single day. And when they did get treats, of course. So they probably don't think it's the worst thing. The other thing I really liked about this place was that they were doing the encounters to raise money to fund their sanctuary. So their sanctuary actually did a lot more than just dolphin encounters. They rescued sea turtles and then rehabilitated them when possible to return back into the open ocean. They did multiple things like that with marine life. This is a good time to ask you to go ahead and hit the thumbs up on this video. Only takes a second, and doing so helps other cruisers find us. What animal encounters are you really wanting to do that you haven't done yet? Comment below. For me, I want to hold a sloth so bad I can barely stand it. And hopefully, this wish is going to come true on our next cruise. We do have a sloth encounter booked, and it is supposed to be a sanctuary. It was kind of hard to find out as much as I would have liked to about this particular sanctuary, and they do have a lot of encounters that they book during the day. So I'm hoping that it's not just a couple of sloths having to go through and do all of them. I am hoping that this is an ethical experience and that it lives up to my standards of what an ethical animal encounter is. I hope this video has given you something to think about, and that the next time you book an animal encounter, you do take that extra time to do a little research into how the animals are treated, and just think about really where your priorities are when it comes to experiencing these wild creatures. We all want to have up close encounters with these wild creatures. They're beautiful, they're exotic, but we do also need to make sure that they're being treated well. If you like this video, check out one of our other videos and then come back next week for another video designed to help you have an amazing cruise. And here's hoping that you have a blessed week.